inspired by Al-Qaeda.
Police said the suspects had 3 tons of ammonium nitrate, a fertilizer that can be used to make explosives.
If I can put this in context for you, the 1995 bombing of the Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City that killed 168 people was completed with only 1 ton of ammonium nitrate.
Neighbors of one of the suspects were stunned.
It's just scary. It's, I'm absolutely shocked. I'm kind of happy that I'm moving.
Like, I work downtown. Am I fearful to go on Monday? Yeah, I am. I'm nervous.
Police said the public should feel safe.
We're satisfied this threat has been removed.
But they said more arrests might follow. Over the next few days, some elements of the terror plot leaked out, including a plan to storm Parliament and behead the Prime Minister. But as the CBC's Terry Malevsky reported, the full details of the plot didn't emerge until the Crown outlined its case.
CBC News has obtained fresh details of Operation Bahadur, the name of the alleged plot to storm Parliament and behead the Prime Minister. Those details come from a synopsis of the case written by prosecutors, and it reveals that the attack on Parliament was to be coordinated with attacks on the RCMP headquarters, the CSIS headquarters in Ottawa, as well as the CSIS building in downtown Toronto, which is across the street from another target, the CBC building. Other targets included an unnamed Canadian Forces base and the Toronto Stock Exchange.
It dispels any idea that people may have that this was a bunch of guys who, the gang that couldn't shoot straight. It demonstrates a criminal predisposition. It also demonstrates numbers of acts in furtherance of the ultimate conspiracy, which was the death of Canadian citizens.
The prosecution summary also says the plan was to behead political hostages to enforce a demand that Canada release Muslim prisoners and pull troops out of Afghanistan, and that it called for the use of truck bombs and an airplane. In fact, it says one suspect, Amin Mohammed Durrani, signed up for flight school. It was the Centennial School in Durham, near Toronto, but the summary says Durrani did not attend because he feared arousing suspicion. Maybe he noticed that the Durham police parked their helicopter at the same airport. The prosecution also claims that the driving force behind the alleged plot was a 20-year-old Mississauga student named Zakaria Amara.
Overall, the Crown summary gives the impression of a gang that was so thoroughly penetrated by CSIS and the RCMP that their every call was monitored and every move watched. At one point, it seems the police were even able to covertly break into Amara's home and to discover remote-controlled detonators and some fake business cards designed to give the impression that Amara had a farming business to cover the purchase of fertilizer. Prosecutors also allege that Amara visited websites to learn how to make a bomb and that he was overheard at one point saying that he would have no regrets if one of his bombs killed innocent civilians right here on Toronto's Front Street, which runs in between CSIS and the CBC.
The Crown also alleges the group made training videos at its camp near Washego, Ontario, and that it planned to use remote-controlled toys to blow up police stations if its members were arrested.
Reports that the alleged ringleader had gone online to learn how to make a bomb focused attention on the role of the internet. It's become an essential tool for would-be terrorists. As the CBC's Joanna Romeliotis explains, from recruiting new members to planning attacks, the information is just a click away.
There are no boundaries. Its reach is global. Its appeal deadly. For rebels looking for a cause, cyber jihadism is it. It is the virtual reality behind what police call a homegrown terrorist threat. Canadian authorities estimate there are as many as 4,500 jihadist websites out there, and that they've become the main networking tool for radicals. It is uncensored terrain that authorities say is growing fast, with calls to arms, and even step-by-step instructions from how to make an explosive to where a suicide bomber should stand in a crowded bus for maximum impact. The recruits seem to be mostly young men at a crossroads between Islamic society and the Western world.
They're assembling an improvised explosive device.
Security experts call them the jihad generation, young, confused, and computer savvy.
It's easier to recruit a 17-year-old who's in a crisis of identity, who's unsure about his place in the world, than it is to recruit somebody who's 40, married, a job.
It's not clear how the suspects in Canada use the internet, but it's a well-trodden cyber path. This man was found guilty of plotting to kill President George W. Bush. He found out how to do it from online terrorist manuals. And a report into the bombings of London's transit system last July also found the bombers plotted their attack on the internet. Peter Newman is head of defense studies at London's University of St. Andrews. He says advice is a click away.
They will provide them with funds if necessary. They will provide them, most importantly, with the sort of advice on how to actually launch the attack, in what way to coordinate.
But smoking keyboards are hard to find in cyberspace. Some sites even contain instructions on how to pass on the information secretly.
Hopefully, one of the outcomes of this case is not only do terrorists recognize the role of the internet, but maybe they should also start recognizing the good guys can exploit that as well, and beware.
One piece of information authorities hope will spread online, that cyberspace is not the perfect hiding place. Joanna Brumiliotis, CBC News, Toronto.
News of the homegrown terror plot shocked all Canadians, but no group was more stunned than the Muslim Canadian community. As the CBC's Melissa Fung reports, many wondered whether enough was being done to prevent young men from being influenced by extremists.
It can take root in mosques, in schools, online. Anywhere young people gather lurks the potential they could fall under the influence of extremist ideology. Some Muslim educators say it's because the community at large has failed today's youth.
The imams and the mosques and the quote-unquote Muslim establishment within that, they failed. They don't know what's going on at the grassroots levels.
The grassroots start at home. Shahid Hashemi warns his 4 children against violence.
Parents need to have responsibility the most because they are the guiding force. They have to filter it out. We must teach the true message of Islam.
Now, father and son are hoping to teach it to others, using pamphlets and emails to educate the larger community on the dangers of extremism.
Whether we do our job door to door, neighbor to neighbor, hand to hand, talk to talk, telephone to telephone, however we need to be done. And I've always done and I'll keep doing it.
Schools are definitely a part of the community.
Jack Jedwab is an expert on multiculturalism in schools.
I think the schools can engage in more intercultural dialogue, try to involve the students more in the community that the school constitutes.
This private Muslim school in Montreal has strict guidelines on what is considered appropriate behavior. Students aren't allowed to talk about violence.
If there is any of these students in our school, usually we take them to the office, we talk to them, we explain them the situation in the world, in the Middle East.
Religious leaders, too, acknowledge they need to do better in talking and listening to young people.
It is a wake-up call for Muslim leaders in the sense that what we are doing, we have to increase our efforts and reach out to the Muslim youth even more.
To make sure that young people are learning about tolerance and not about terror. Melissa Fung, CBC News, Toronto.
That message of tolerance was reinforced a month later when it was revealed that a Canadian Muslim helped dismantle the terror plot by infiltrating the group while working for CSIS, Canada's intelligence service, and the RCMP. In an interview with the CBC's Lyndon McIntyre, he revealed who he is and what his motive was.
Mubin Sheikh, the Toronto man who infiltrated an alleged terror cell for CSIS and the RCMP, believed Canada faced a grave and immediate threat of bloodshed, which would also have left a permanent stain on the integrity of Canada's Muslim community.
To err on the side of caution, I would have to say that these are fruitcakes nonetheless, but with the capacity to do some real damage. The damage that this would do to Islam, to the Muslims here. Forget Canada, even I was thinking, because my interests were Islam and Muslims, even over and above Canadian interests.
He's 29 years old, born in Canada of Indo-Muslim parents, and this week he spoke publicly about his 2-year undercover assignment for the first time.
I met with the CSIS guys, and they were very interested in me now. So basically, they put to me the prospect of working with them giving information on certain people, certain groups, getting close to, leaders of certain groups, talking to them, seeing what kind of views they had, and reporting on those views.
The former Army cadet and reservist quickly won the confidence of the leaders in an emerging plot that eventually included attacks on prominent Canadians, Parliament, the Toronto Stock Exchange, and the CBC. They eventually asked him to direct a 10-day winter training program in guerrilla tactics in rural Ontario. The training included simulated attacks on individuals, basic combat techniques, and target practice. Evenings were spent discussing militant Islam and viewing jihadist videos.
Oh, this kind of stuff you can download off the internet. It's available all over. You can even get in the streets if really you went to the right mosque.
You just some guy handing it out, selling it, or whatever.
As simple as that.
Early in June, the police broke up what they considered to be a serious terror conspiracy. The plot had escalated, eventually involving the purchase of material which could have been used for making bombs. One of the leaders of the group had already learned to build a detonator. 17 alleged conspirators are in custody. Mubin Sheikh had a typical Canadian boyhood in a multicultural Toronto neighborhood. He turned to religion as a young adult and at one point studied in the Middle East. He says he's an observant Muslim, but had no qualms about helping intelligence and police authorities to stop what he considers a violation of fundamental Islamic values.
God says in the Quran, you save one life justly, it is as if you have saved all of humankind. And there's no two ways about it. I don't need the reinterpretations or context. It's straight up. That's it. The Prophet, peace be upon him, has said, stop your brother when he's the oppressor and the oppressed. And they said, we understand when he's the oppressed, but when he's the oppressor, he said, prevent him from his oppression, from his oppressing. So I was guided. I had my license.
Later, it was revealed that Sheikh wasn't the only police spy. Another man from a prominent Toronto area Muslim family also infiltrated the group and passed on names and information. A close friend of his, who cannot be identified for security reasons, explained why.
It's like he's taking a stand. He's going like a man stand. I'm going to stand up there and take care of the Muslims, and I'm going to take care of Canada, my country.
Despite all the information collected, the case took a long time to wind its way through the justice system. One more man was arrested and charged with being part of the plot, but charges against 7 others were dropped or stayed. The so-called Toronto 18 became the Toronto 11, and some defense lawyers claimed the whole case had been hyped.
In my personal view and my professional view as a criminal and constitutional lawyer, the evidence doesn't amount to a hill of beans, as Humphrey Bogart said.
But later, police released more surveillance videos showing some of the plotters unloading a truck filled with 120 bags labeled ammonium nitrate, and then showed what a bomb made from 1 ton of that substance could do. The conviction rate began to mount. A man and a juvenile offender were found guilty. 5 others pleaded guilty. And in late January, Zachariah Amara, the ringleader of the terror plot, received his sentence. The CBC's Ron Charles reports.
These are the hands of Zachariah Amara testing a remote triggering device for a truck bomb. Amara hatched a plot to set off 2 truck bombs in downtown Toronto at the Stock Exchange and CSIS offices, and 1 bomb at a military base. Today, a judge called it the most horrific crime Canada would ever have seen, and that the bomb plotters were not a group of amateurs whose efforts were doomed to fail. He sentenced Amara to life in prison. Amara had pleaded guilty to the bomb plot and apologized to all Canadians in court. His lawyer had suggested an 18-year sentence.
In light of our client's genuine expressions of remorse, in light of his denunciation of the terrorist activity, both of which Justice Durno accepted, we're disappointed.
Saad Gaya was one of Amara's followers. He was arrested while unloading fertilizer for the planned truck bombs. He pleaded guilty and today was handed a 12-year sentence.
Terrorism is a heinous and evil crime, but not necessarily everyone who commits a heinous and evil crime is himself evil. I don't believe Mr. Gaya is evil.
Both men are eligible for parole. Along with credit for time served, Gaya could be out in 1.5 years, Amara in 6.5 years.
In late February, federal prosecutors announced they will appeal Gaia's 12-year sentence, claiming it's too lenient. The trials of the last 4 defendants are expected to begin in the spring. And that's News in Review. Don't forget to check out our website at newsinreview.cbclearning.ca. I'm Carla Robinson. Thanks for watching. At the bottom of a mighty river, a search begins.
Metal detector found something. What did you find?
Well, Steve first saw it, and then we confirmed with the metal detector, and it looks like an axe head on the bottom.
On News and Review today, diving for clues to Canadian history. Hello, I'm Carla Robinson. Once upon a time, some of the great rivers of Canada were the busy highways of the fur trade. First Nation hunters and French voyageurs